you'd like to make eye contact, if you have a joke that you'd like to make or a point that you really like to hit home,
Look into the light.
Yeah, you can really just like connect with the audience there. Yeah. Most people we just end up kind of looking at each other.
3, 4 million people
Excuse me, there are 10 million people watching this.
10 million.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, don't underestimate people.
Gotcha.
Hello, and welcome to Runnah, running on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and beyond. I'm Juliana, your host. Welcome back, everyone. And today, I have a very special guest. I have the president of the Falmouth Road Race and also the owner of Ghelfi's. Is it Ghelfi's Chocolate Import? What's the
Ghelfi's Candies of Cape Cod.
Ghelfi's Candies of Cape Cod.
Yes.
Or as everyone in shorthand just calls around here, Ghelfi's.
Yep.
So that's why I didn't know the whole title.
And you spelt it right, so thank you very
much. Wow, look at
you
me.
Pronounced it right.
Okay.
Great job.
I'm pretty proud of myself because I'm usually really bad at that kind of stuff.
You did great.
So, but this is Mr. Scott Ghelfi. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Juliana. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. I would say you are probably one of the people I would put in the institution of Falmouth running. You are just part of the Falmouth running scene as like a permanent statue. Here you are.
I don't know if I deserve to be there yet. But
you're making your way up there.
But yeah, I mean, kind of being part of the Falmouth Road Race, you're kind of, you're in the center of it all. So
yeah,
I've been running a while and been part of the road race a while. So yeah.
Yeah, and I will say you're definitely part of the lore of Falmouth now, especially since your son-in-law, who was a previous guest on here, is Ben Flanagan.
Yes.
So I feel like that's one of the stories that people just like to tell. Yes. Around here because it's just kind of one of those like little meet cutes and it's just kind of like a fun little positive story.
And I mean, all of my volunteer work, all of my involvement in the race has come together, and I got a son-in-law out of it. It's kind of been the best part of it all.
Yeah, you got to go watch him compete at the Olympics in Paris.
Yeah,
that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah,
I love that. But let's start out with, where does the Scott Ghelfi running story start? Where is the origin story start here?
Let's take us back to, say, 8th grade.
Okay, so like 1805.
Yeah, right. 1776.
Best friends with Jefferson. Okay.
Yeah, I was a very small hockey player. Growing up, I was the smallest kid, boy or girl. And
you're from Falmouth, correct?
I'm from Falmouth.
That's what I thought. Okay.
But I thought I was going to the NHL, despite the fact that I was as small as I was.
Big dreams.
But some point in the summer of 8th grade, I had a good friend, Rob Sederman, whose dad was a runner, ran marathons, ran the Marine Corps Marathon. That was his big marathon back in the day. But he was, runner, skier, hockey player, very active guy. And I happened to be Rob's best friend, and I got to be his +1 pretty much anything they did. Skiing, going to a hockey game, going to a road race, and that's where it all started for me. We took a trip to the Vineyard that summer, and Ron Sederman signed us up for a 5K.
Oh, okay.
I'd never run before, not training, not to be in shape, nothing. And,
just straight out the gate gonna run this 5K.
My suede Pro Keds.
Oh, Jesus.
And, but we ran this 5K road race, and I happened to win my age group.
Wow, and a pair of suede Keds?
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
So Mr. Sederman was very excited for me and said to me, you have to come back when we get back, and you have to run the Falmouth Road Race. I didn't even really know what the Falmouth Road Race was at that point.
Yeah.
But,
foreshadowing.
Okay, maybe I have a little talent at this. I don't know. Let's give this Falmouth Road Race thing a try. And so he signed us up, and me and Rob and Mr. Sederman and a couple other friends all ran the Falmouth Road Race that year.
And that was before the lottery, right?
It must have been.
Probably.
I think we could just sign up.
Yeah.
And
kind of like how like originally with the Boston Marathon, you used to just be able to like sign up and.
Yeah. I can't remember that there was a lottery. Whatever.
Yeah.
1977, 78.
Yeah. So probably pre-lottery then.
Ran my first road race. I ran 52 minutes, which, it doesn't sound great, but as a 14-year-old, not bad.
That's pretty good.
So, and after I had finished, Tom Turkington, who would turn out to be my cross-country coach in high school, was there, and he said, "You're a runner. You need to come out for cross-country." And I said, "No, I'm a hockey player." And he said,
"I will be going to the NHL. Thank you so much."
You're a runner. And I kind of was like, "Yeah, no." And but when I tried out for the high school hockey team and did not make it,
sad.
He was there to tell me, "See, you were a runner," and thus my running career started. And,
okay.
Tom put me in a JV race, and I won my first JV race.
Wow.
And
that's pretty good.
And went right to varsity, and had a nice little cross-country career, track career in high school, and I was one of many, many good runners back in the day. We had we had a stable of we were led by Brian Mahoney, Dennis Cullinane ended up coming here.
Okay, yeah.
Eric Mello, Chris Funkhauser, Ted Farrell. I mean, all guys that were just absolute studs, and could compete at the state level, and so so I was one of a bunch of really good runners that we had, and when we got to my senior year, we won the state championship in cross country, winter track, and spring track.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
So
so you're like on an all-star team, just like killing it left and right. You thought you were a hockey stud, but really you were a running stud.
So I was never running number one for our team, but I was always in the mix. And,
contributing.
And had a nice little high school career. I went on to run at UNH.
Okay,
University
nice.
of New Hampshire.
Both my parents went there, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, weird connections, here and there.
Yeah. So, not very successfully in college, but but I got in a lot of miles and made a lot of friends, and got out of college, and Falmouth. After I ran Falmouth that first year, it was always an annual thing. It was the biggest event of the year for me.
I mean, that's, as you know from being the president of the Falmouth Road Race now, that's not an uncommon experience, especially for people who live in town and can get that guaranteed entry. Yeah. It's like this is our race. This is the community's race. We all come out and we run it together as a town. Yeah. That's just that's the end of it. We're all here. Yeah. Are you not coming? Why aren't you coming?
But it was my Christmas every year. I look forward to that. I tried to better my times every year, and at some point it was the big deal to get under 40 minutes. And
okay, did you do it?
I did get under 40 minutes.
Nice.
And then under 39, and once under 38.
Wow, you got me beat big time.
That was my one PR.
That's impressive, actually.
Over the years, my family, my parents would house runners. They would volunteer. We would all volunteer as a family. Yeah. So it just kind of became part of who you were as a human and as a family and as as a town. Yep. This is a town led / volunteered and powered race. I would say the Falmouth Road Race specifically. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have 1,500 to 2,000 volunteers,
which is bananas.
And especially now that we give back so much to the community, I mean, there probably isn't a nonprofit organization in town that has not received some sort of financial assistance from us at some point.
I would agree with that, with the number of Falmouth Road Race logos that I've seen with my own two eyes on things. Yeah. You kind of contribute to everything. But after college, it sounds like you were kind of just after college, you weren't really competing or anything running.
Well, actually, so getting out of college, I did compete for a while.
Oh, okay.
So I probably spent, I have to figure out when my kids came. My kids that was the start of, my running career kind of coming to an end.
Piddling out a little bit.
Until I rejuvenated it again in my later years. But I did, I ran my first marathons. Cape Cod was my first marathon. I ran New York.
Nice.
I ran Boston. I ran Chicago.
Awesome.
So I did a bunch of marathons, ran a lot of road races, got pretty competitive. And, but then, kids came and,
demand some extra time out of you.
And so, so just the running, was just more to, I'd run a couple times a week just to stay fit.
Yeah.
But, racing, I think I went probably another 20, 25 years and didn't run a race.
Really?
So.
That's interesting.
So, I just, involved with the kids stuff. I was coaching. I coached a lot of hockey.
Okay, back to
both
those.
My kids played hockey. They were both golfers, so we did a lot of traveling for that. So, so the road racing just didn't fit into my schedule.
Yeah.
But I kept my foot in it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then in 2010, I was asked to be on the Falmouth Road Race Board.
Oh, okay.
Being here, being a business person in town, being involved in the race, at the capacity that I was involved in.
What were you doing with the race before that? Were you like leading a volunteer group or something?
No, just volunteering, and I always housed runners.
Okay.
We were always a host family. And so, I housed runners like Steve Scott, who held the American record in the mile for a long time. Dean Matthews, who his claim to fame back in the day was that he won the Hawaii Marathon.
Okay, sure, why not?
But there were a lot of other runners that people wouldn't even know. But
yeah, but they're memorable to you.
Yeah, but we housed runners all the time, and then I was asked in 2010 to be on the board, and absolutely said yes, and with some changes there. 2 years later, I was president, and so except for a 2-year hiatus along the way, I've been president ever since.
Now, what was the kind of the trajectory from being on the board to president? Was it just that the position was open and you were like, I shall be doing this? Or did you get asked? Or what was the...
Well, I think, so we were going through some changes. We made some changes with our race director. And at the time, we had signed Dave McGillivray and Dimsey, his team, to kind of be the race directors and our operations team for the race. And at that point, the current president of the race...
Who was president before you, Scott?
Christine Frazier.
Okay.
And so she got moved to she was, had a talent for sponsorship sales.
Yeah.
And so she moved to that, and that left the void at president. And I think everyone on the board kind of looked at each other and okay, who's going to be president now?
And you were the only one who was like, I'll do it.
And so I don't really remember how it all shook out. If someone nominated me or.
You just kind of ended up there.
But I know walking out of there, I was president.
You know what the end result was. Okay. Well, that's definitely, I would say that's not necessarily a position of power in Falmouth, but a position of notoriety, shall we say, in the Falmouth scene, even outside of the running scene here in Falmouth. People, like we just mentioned, they are part of the Falmouth Road Race, whether they're runners, whether they're not, in some capacity, and a lot of people know you, not only from doing that, but also because of your candy shop and stuff too, which everyone definitely go check out Ghelfi's Candies if you're either in Falmouth or in Mashpee, because you have the Mashpee location too. Yep. But definitely, I feel like you're just a known person in Falmouth, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up here. My parents, my mom especially, was very involved in town, so she got certainly our name out there back in the day. And I
imagine she probably liked to talk like you do, Scott.
Oh my God, she 10 times me. So, but she liked to volunteer for a lot of stuff. And one fun fact is my mom and a few other running moms back in the day when we were in high school, they were called the Hardcore Mothers. Okay. And they started the Main Street Mile.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was my mom, Avery Funkhauser, Muriel Farrell.
Okay.
Shirley Cullinane. and probably a few others that I'm forgetting. But the few of them got together. They started the Main Street Mile to raise money for the cross-country team. And so fun fact that's how it got started. So
Okay, cool.
my mom was part of that.
Is your mom still around?
She is not.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I would like to have her on the podcast, but like
No.
we're getting into that zone where like I know I'm getting older, and like
Yeah.
I went to visit my parents the other day, and I was like, you are getting older.
Yeah.
And like I know that some people who are a little bit older, their parents are not here anymore. So sorry about that, Scott.
No, Dad's still
But-
here, but Mom moved on a few years ago. And, she
That's
was never a
bummer.
runner, but she was
Passionate about that.
She loved the road race, and she certainly was up for volunteering in any way, shape, or form she could.
Yeah,
So-
it sounds like to me you've kind of learned a lot from like watching your mom do things like that too, like just kind of like leading by example, like showing
Yeah.
the value of volunteering and being part of the community.
Yeah, I never, it wasn't anything I consciously was trying to copy her, emulate. It
Yeah.
just kind of people ask you to help, and you do.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so my mom never said no, and I guess I'm similar in that way.
yeah, and I mean, and you can probably attest to this too. Generally speaking, for the most part, you get a lot out of volunteering.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's especially. I mean, I love the road race. I mean, I would.
I would imagine you do.
It's a completely volunteer situation. I love to be part of the board that I'm on. We have a great group of 7 of us, and I love working with the staff. Race week and
So much
being
fun.
part of all the volunteers and having the elite runners come in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a total running nerd, so I know most of the not personally, but I know of almost all the elite runners. So when they come in, I know who they are, and
Well, we have some pretty big names that come through here,
oh, it's amazing.
which is wild to me. Like we go from like somewhat of an unknown entity in the entire world to being the center of the universe for like 3 days, pretty much.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
So you're president of the Falmouth Road Race. What does that even entitle? Like what are the job responsibilities for said president of the Falmouth Road Race?
Well, I mean, I pretty much oversee everything, but mostly I oversee our board. First of all, I run our board meetings.
Okay.
We make sure that we have a handle on our budget. We, the staff answers to us. Our executive director now, Megan Faulkner,
Yep.
answers
Love
to
Megan.
our board, namely me. I'm kind of the go-between between the board and her.
Okay.
I'm just kind of overseeing and kind of have my hands in pretty much
Everything.
everything.
Just kind of
yeah.
making sure everything's like everything seems like it's going okay. Just
Yeah.
checking in with people, seeing how they're doing.
I mean, we have a budget. Our budget is our Bible, and we follow that
I would
as closely
imagine.
as we can. We set that for the year, and then we follow that, and and then we have our philanthropy, and so I'm in charge of our philanthropy and making sure.
Are you?
Yeah, that we we have our grant committee, we have our scholarships, we a lot of requests come through me, and I'm able to donate to different.
To the Berlin Marathon Fund for
There you
Juliana,
go.
which was
You
great.
know,
Thank you very much.
Make donations similar to that. So yeah, it's.
That's a really cool role to have. And I know we talked about already too. You guys have donated to so many things in town, like so many organizations. Do you have any maybe favorite stories or maybe anything notable things that you guys have donated to over the years that maybe stand out to you or?
Well, two things come to mind right away.
Okay, go for it.
Is that my vice president is Bob Antonucci.
Okay.
So the gym floor at the high school is the Bob Antonucci court.
Oh,
So
I thought you were going to name it the Bob Antonucci gym floor. I was
No,
like, this feels
well,
a little bit
it's named
unceremonious.
the floor is named after Bob. Bob was a superintendent of schools here in Falmouth, and in my mind, Bob is the most respected person in this town, and I'm so fortunate to be able to have him work with me on all of this. But it's always, a fun story that, we're walking on Bob Antonucci, we're stepping on Bob.
I want nothing else but to have a floor named after me at some point.
At high school. But so
New goal unlocked.
That was a fun project to work on, and knowing that Bob is part of our board, and
yeah.
the floor was named after him. And
now I'm going to think of that every time I go into the gym there, and it's going to be very funny to me, just me alone.
Yeah. And, another great story is we just lost our good friend Ghelfi, Jim Calparis, who legendary track coach in town, and worked at the high school, and so the outdoor track is named after.
Oh, okay.
It's the James T, I think his middle name is James T. Calparis.
Okay.
Track, and
nice.
So when we resurfaced it several years ago, I worked on that with Ghelfi.
Oh,
and
okay.
So that was a lot of fun to be part of that with him and work with him on that. And then just, Ghelfi was always, looking for ways that the road race could help certain entities in town. So,
for
so
sure.
I got really close with Ghelfi and got to work with him on different things.
Well, that seems like it aligns directly with like you being the philanthropy lead.
Yeah.
And just trying to figure out, like, hey, how can we enhance the community? How can we give back to the community?
Yeah.
That clearly, like, shows up and shows out for us on race weekend.
Yeah.
And is just, like, ready to rock and roll. How can we, like, make this a reciprocal relationship? Which I feel like you have one of the funnest jobs is doing, like, the community outreach and, donation. You're bringing joy.
I get to play Santa Claus.
I was going to say, you get to play Santa.
It's like I'm the front person on this. So, yeah, I get a lot of credit for it, but it's
there's so many people behind the
board,
scenes.
It's our staff, it's our race that provides all of this that I get to do. And, I get a lot of credit for, I don't do a lot of that work.
Yeah, you show up and you're the face of the
I get to hand out the
operation.
checks and,
You're walking up with, like, the big giant checks and, like, welcome, sure check.
Exactly.
I'm sure you've handed many a big check to people.
Yes. We have a big check that we bring
take
around
pictures with,
So, and then I can't not talk about all of this without talking about Tommy Leonard.
Legend.
One of, probably, being part of the road race and getting as close to Tommy as I did was, one of the greatest gifts that I received.
Yeah.
And, I got to know Tommy when I was just starting out running because our cross-country coach, Tom Turkington, was very close with Tommy.
Yeah.
And so we would go to a meet in Boston, and then he would take us over to the Elliott Lounge where Tommy was bartending to say hi.
Oh, that's funny.
And so we always got to see Tommy. And I remember, I think it might have been my second Falmouth where I got to officially meet Tommy at Falmouth. And then fast forward to the next summer, and that year in cross country and track, I had some good races, and maybe it was in the paper a time or two. And then I remember seeing Tommy the next summer when he came back.
Yeah.
And he remembered my name. He talked about the races I was in. I read about you here. He was amazing like that.
He was. Pretty good at remembering things.
He really was. And
fun fact from my side, Scott, because I moved here in 2017. I didn't grow up in the area. One of my first job when I moved here was at JML, and so I actually took care of Tommy the last year that he was alive.
You did.
And I actually got to tell him about I was training for my very first marathon at that time, so I got to report to him before, after all my long runs, and I would go into his room and visit with him, and he would remember even on his last couple of last days, he was remembering everything, and he would talk to me about training for my marathon. And I came back, I gave him the report afterwards too. I kind of feel like it's a little blessing in disguise, a little nice thing that happened. But yeah, I will attest, even in his last year of life, still very, very good mentally.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, he would get tired. I would visit him a lot when he was in the hospital and then JML, and mentally he was great until he was okay, I got a nap. And,
he would tire out a little bit, but I mean, honestly, compared to the other people who were in the nursing home that I was caring for, much more mentally aware and alert and remembering than
but always
most
so
of them.
Positive. Just always if there were ever moments where I felt like I was overwhelmed with anything road race wise or got bummed out about something, go see Tommy, and he just uplifted you like no one else could.
Yeah.
And, you know, he would just make you feel so important that what you were doing was, you know, was great. And so he was just amazing like that. And, you know, I was so fortunate to be friends with him. And you know, we got to take him up when Boston dedicated the bridge to him. There's a bridge up in Boston that you run under, I think, with 2 miles to go in the marathon, maybe a mile and a half.
Yeah, I think I know what bridge you're talking
right near
about.
The Elliott, where the Elliott was. But that year that they dedicated the bridge to him, we got a bus. We had a whole crew of people that went up on the bus, and we got Tommy up there and wheeled him in the wheelchair.
Aww.
And
that's sweet.
So that was a great day, and he's certainly missed, but I try to keep
that energy
in the forefront of my thinking when I'm doing all things road race.
It's kind of like believing in the best in people.
Yeah.
And just being that person who's like, we got this, friends.
Yeah. I mean, he was just an amazing human being that, he was never married. He didn't have kids. He grew up in an orphanage.
Yeah, I remember reading that history on him.
He really, he was a bartender. He never owned a house. He never drove. When he was young, he realized that he had a choice. He's like, I either have to quit drinking or I have to quit driving, because they do not go together. So he quit driving. Because he loved his beer.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So he never drove, and he relied on others, but he always, his enthusiasm and his just love of people, and I mean, he had his funeral filled the wake they had in the church. I've never seen that before, because it was such a big wake. And then the church was just packed.
Yeah, I remember going, again, because I took care of him his last year of life. And so I was like, where and present. And anyone who's in the nursing home, you always get invited to any wakes or funerals you'd like to go to, because obviously you're pretty close to some certain people. And so I remember going to that, and it was just like, and I live pretty close to where the funeral home is too, all day. Yeah. It was like a Beyonce show or something, or like a Taylor Swift show almost, the number of people who were coming through this funeral and the wake and everything. Yeah. It was, I feel like it just goes to speak to the fact that like, you can live an unconventional life, kind of like Tommy did, but it's that kindness and that like love and support that really like draws people to you. Yeah. Like if you're kind to other people, you're just gonna bring other people in. Yeah. And it's just like, clearly Tommy did that. Yeah. And
he had an amazing way of, I feel like I was his best friend. Yeah. But I think, a
lot of other people probably felt that way too.
Everyone thought you were just Tommy's best friend. Yeah. And he just made you feel like that. And, and the
kindness,
funeral
respect
was just a testament. And, I just remember standing there and, I'm like, I got Dave McGilvery, I got Joni Benoit on my shoulder, Frank Shorter's there, Billy Rogers, you got Steve Jones, amazing athletes over the years that came in contact with Tommy, that came out and paid their respects. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on of just the who's who in the running community that came out for that funeral. It was amazing.
And I'm sure there's hundreds of people who are no names too, for the most part too, who just like, Tommy had the same level of impact on Bill Rogers as he did like John Smith or whoever it is that shows up there, because he treated everyone with the same level of kindness, respect, and listening that just made you feel seen and heard, which is, I feel like, an invaluable skill, to be honest.
No, he was amazing. Yeah. So never forgotten. We will never forget him.
Yeah. Well, and he gets honored every year at the road race in some capacity. And it's nice how we have like the little mini Tommy heads on the road now too, which is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's kind of fun. That's a fun little, like, whoever did that little graphic design, I think it did a great job. Brilliant. Yeah, fantastic.
It was, having his little stash.
Yeah, it's really cute. It looks just like, you know exactly who it is when you look at it. Yeah. And we have the statue of his hat that's right across the street from the quarterdeck now. Yeah.
Which is great. Is named in his honor. Mm-hmm. We have the plaque down in Woods Hole. Yep. And there's a Tommy Leonard bench at the Heights.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Still there. It's a little beat up. Needs a little help.
Maybe needs to be zhuzhed up this year.
Yeah.
Put that on our to-do list for some point.
Yeah, and then we have Tommy's place that that is named
Yeah.
after him.
Yeah, and
So
does the road race have like any direct connections with that? Is that something that you do things with, or is that its own entity?
We have certainly donated it to them financially, but no, we don't really have any connection.
Except for the fact that it is like in the name of Tommy
Right.
Leonard and in the spirit of Tommy Leonard.
But we support them and and help them any way we can.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that's fantastic. And obviously Tommy Leonard has played a pretty positive role in your life, and a pretty positive influence, and I think that's great. And it definitely, for you, and I know for a lot of other people, has translated into the road race and having positive views of that, and also the Falmouth community, which I think is fantastic. So thank you for sharing those stories, Scott.
You're welcome.
So, but we talked about the charitable side of being the president of the road race. We talked about Tommy Leonard. I guess for me, what's your favorite part of being the president of the Falmouth road race? If you could pick one thing, and I know this is probably going to be hard, Scott. If you could pick one, maybe two things that you think are the best part of being the president of the Falmouth road race, it could be just something small. You're yeah, I get to hand off what is there a trophy for winning the Falmouth road race? I wouldn't know. I'm not going to win
We
it.
have medals.
Okay. Let's say I'm never going to win it, so I don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
we could ask Ben.
I know, right? I mean,
he's won 3 times. He'll know.
I know. I mean, that talking about Ben, that could segue into perhaps my favorite road race moment. But as far as my favorite part of it, it's when that expo starts and you walk into that and all the people rush in after their numbers and everyone's there volunteering. I mean, it's just, it's just such a cool moment because you've worked all year for this week and, you open that door the first time and there's a line out the door and it's crazy.
I love it.
I mean, the expo goes on all weekend, but people are lined up.
They're ready.
At Thursday afternoon to come in because they want to get their number first. I mean, that's just, and seeing all the volunteers is just, but, having, all of this and all of the, effort that I've put into this, to think that I have a son-in-law out of this through my interaction with the road race.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, I mean, the story has been told
many times.
But for those that don't know, Ben was a University of Michigan track athlete. He had just won the 2018 NCAA championship in the 10,000 meters. I had never met Ben, but I follow track and field, so I watched that race and watched him win, in an iconic finish, and it was a super exciting race.
He's got some good finish line pictures. I realized that when I was looking
really,
up pictures for the podcast the other day. I was like, oh wow, Ben takes a lot of pretty good finish line pictures.
He knows how to finish.
Yeah.
And, so fast forward to our race in August, and I didn't even know that he was coming to race, and I was actually working runner services that day, and I look over and I see a runner come in with Michigan swag on, the whole outfit, and I called someone over and I go, hey, who's the Michigan kid?
Yeah.
And they said, that's Ben Flanagan. I go, why is Ben Flanagan here? And no one even asked us. So my daughter was an athlete at University of Michigan as well. Didn't know Ben either. Yeah. But she was she golfed on their golf team. And so I said, geez. And they were like, oh, we didn't think about it, Yeah. But, I said, when you get a chance, have him come over and introduce himself. Well, about a half hour later, our housing director came over and said, hey, do you want to take Ben? His housing just fell through. And so I called my wife and I said, hey, I got this Michigan kid. He's going to stay with us. And she's like, we have no place. And I'm like, well, have Hannah sleep down on the couch. He can have Hannah's room.
This is where the lore begins.
And so, I still hadn't had a chance to meet Ben, but he got dropped off at our house. and everyone was out. We have a tennis court, pickleball court in our yard, and everyone was out playing, and Hannah and Ben met for the first time. I came home, got a chance to meet Ben, but I didn't really get a chance to hang out with him very much because I'm busy with road race stuff.
It's a busy weekend, obviously.
But in the meantime, him and Hannah got to know each other, and they had a lot in common being athletes at Michigan, and so fast forward to race morning. I'm driving Ben to the race, and and Ben was listed. We had a media kit. We had 25 names of all of the elite athletes. Yeah. Everyone had a bio.
Yeah.
But at the bottom, number 25, Ben Flanagan, University of Michigan. That's it. No bio, no nothing.
You're like, great, I know so much about this kid who's staying in my house, and I've interacted with maybe 3 times this weekend so far.
I mean, I knew of Ben, but I didn't think anyone that was in college really had any shot of winning a race.
Yeah, because he wasn't like a pro-sponsored athlete or anything at that time. He's just a very, very good but college athlete.
Correct. So I'm driving him. We have arrangements I'm going in early, so I'll drive you to the bus.
Yeah, you're like, good luck, kid. Slap him on the back, kick him out of the car.
So I'm in the car with him, and I'm like, so, how you feeling? How you think you'll do? And he's like, well, I'm feeling pretty good. I've been running well lately, and, I think, if I'm in the mix at the end, I think I can win it. And I'm like, and I looked at him,
this is a ballsy kid right here.
Win it. He goes, yeah. He goes, I know these guys, and I think, I think I'm right there with them. And if I'm there at 6 miles, I think, I can beat them all. And I'm like, okay. So I started thinking, okay, he's never been on the course. He needs to know a bit about what's going on. So I kind of quickly went over the course with him. Told him about the first 3 miles and how hilly that can be, and then you come out onto the beach and
you get roasted like a fried egg.
You get fried.
Yeah.
And then, but I basically said to him, I go, look, I said, you're gonna, start after 6 miles. You're gonna start moving uphill, and then it's gonna take a left-hand turn, and you're gonna have a pretty good hill right there.
And you keep going.
And I said, if you're in the mix and you want to win this race. When you hit that hill, you got to be in the lead.
Yeah.
Because it's tough to overtake someone on that hill.
Yeah.
I said, you want to get on that hill, you're going to crest, pick up the pace, and I said...
float down.
And, and so I gave him this tip, drop him off, and now I'm at the start. So I'm announcing, as you know.
You
I
announced
at
that.
the start now. I mean, at the finish. And so it's my job, really, to kind of call out the local runners, kind of find the local runners, call their names out.
I get a shout out every year, Scott.
That's we look for you.
So I'm going to be.
You're highlighted on my list. So
I look forward to it. As the person who a lot of the times is announcing other people's names, it's nice for me, like for the one big race that I do like locally every year, to just like have my name announced.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of fun.
People love it,
Kind of fun.
And so I've gotten a little bit better at it. We've gotten a little more organized with it, and we make sure we have a list of as many local runners as we can, and I try to pick out others that might not be on the list. But, but this year, I'm at the start. I'm with Mark Davis, and we're calling the finish line stuff, and the race starts, and Tony Revis, a legendary track and field announcer, is on the lead
absolute
vehicle.
pro, yeah.
And so he's announcing the first mile or something, and then the feed cuts out. So we have no feed.
Oh.
We have no idea what's going on with the race.
Is that because the internet dropped out or something? I mean,
I'm no techie, so I have no idea what the heck happened. But
you also know how terrible it is to get a signal down on the field.
Yeah, I think through that area it's pretty tough. But we lost all contact. Tony was announcing, but he was just announcing to nobody.
Speaking into the universe, just saying things in that big, bold voice that he has.
So, so at some point, he called me or I called him, just to kind of get an update so I could
like what's going on.
And he basically was like, it's just a big, group of guys, all together. Steven Sambu had won 4 straight, was in that mix, along with other top athletes. And I didn't know if Ben was in that pack or not.
Yeah, it was just like a blob of dudes are coming out this way.
So fast forward now, the lead vehicle comes through the finish. Tony jumps off. I grab him really quick, get a quick interview.
Yeah.
Tony, give us an update on the race. And really in my head, I just want to know if Ben's in the pack.
Yeah, you're like...
He had told me if
like
he was
the
in the
kid.
mix at 6, he had a good shot of winning.
The kid who's staying with me said
Right.
that he could win. So,
Right.
we got to test and make sure, see if this kid was lying to me or not.
So I said, Tony, give us an update. He goes, it was still a big pack at 6 miles, and it was Steven Sambo and Scott Fauble and Lenny Career, and he's naming off all these guys, and I want to hear, I want to hear if Ben, without saying, well, was Ben in there? I didn't want to, and then I look to my right, and I look up the hill, and here comes Ben in first place.
Here comes that little blob of black hair
and
coming
I
up
said,
over the top
and
of it.
I just yelled, and Ben Flanagan from Canada, and I
lost it.
my mind.
Yeah.
And screamed Ben's name a number of times, and he came down the line, jumped over the finish line, and
it's a pretty good finish line picture from that year too.
Yeah, it was just an amazing moment, and of course his whole family was here. The partying afterwards, we were at the Coonamessett. Him and Hannah really got to know each other that night, and I think I got a lot of pictures from people. They sent me pictures saying that, picture of your future son-in-law. There were jokes going on around that first night, but
that's cute.
But so Ben had one semester of graduate school left.
Okay.
So he was going back to University of Michigan. Hannah had 2 more years. And so they went back to school, and Ben, asked her out.
Yeah.
And,
the rest is history at this point.
The rest is history. And, the wedding was October of 23, and now they're going to have my first grandchild in about 3 weeks. And
that's what Ben was saying, because he was talking about his racing. He's like, I could have had to pick certain races because the baby is due soon. I said, that's fair.
Yeah.
Be a good dad, my friend.
Yeah, the plan was to debut at Boston this year because he's transitioning to the marathon.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me.
But it looks like the baby kind of is
maybe
in the way there. But no, I mean, of all of the things that I've gotten out of the race, I
son-in-law,
got an amazing son-in-law,
and now a grandkid.
Yeah, and now a grandson or a granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
It's
okay. I didn't know what the gender of the child was.
Pretty cool.
Oh,
very cool.
Like we talked about earlier, this is a story of Falmouth lore that I'm sure someone at some point will write down somewhere in the great history book of Falmouth or whatever, whoever the bookkeeper is for that, I don't know.
And one of the neat things is Tommy passed away in January of 2019. So Ben won the race, and he didn't get a chance to. Tommy was in that lead vehicle that year, but he heads right back. He didn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't in any shape to stick around.
No.
So we, Ben never got a chance to meet Tommy, but throughout the fall in my visits with Tommy, telling him the story about Ben and Hannah getting to know each other, Tommy was the ultimate romantic. He loved, a romantic story. So he always wanted to know
getting updates
on what was going on. And so, and then that Christmas, Ben came back to Falmouth and stayed with us. And then Hannah and Ben and myself went in to visit Tommy at J-Mall just about 2 weeks before he passed. And so Ben did get a chance to
finally meet Tommy.
And both Hannah and Ben came in with autographed pictures of Tommy used to send congratulations notes to my daughter frequently. When she would do well in a golf tournament or something.
That's adorable.
He would send her a note. And so both of them came in with autographed pictures of themselves
to hand over to Tommy.
And Tommy, being kind of confused at the end, had a Michigan State T-shirt. And so he had somebody bring the Michigan State T-shirt to him so he had it sitting on himself.
On top of himself,
and they came in.
Yeah.
Not realizing that they went to the University of Michigan,
not
Michigan State.
That's funny.
So I have this picture of Tommy with a Michigan State T-shirt
with Ben and Hannah
Ben and Hannah to on each side. So, but they, Ben got to meet Tommy near the end, which was nice. And that was a big thrill for Tommy. So
that's a really awesome full circle moment right there. just a lot of the things from your life kind of coming and touching each other and meeting up and kind of creating that little circle that is like, I guess, the Falmouth running community right there.
Yeah.
That's a big portion of it.
Yeah.
But those are some great stories, Scott. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks.
Was there anything else you wanted to speak on? I feel like we've hit a lot of the high points, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're just, we're still rocking and rolling. The race is a well-oiled machine, and, we just lost our former executive director, Jennifer Edwards. We had a great working relationship for a number of years, and she did a lot of great things for us and brought us to a new level. And now, now that's been handed off to Megan Faulkner, who worked closely with Jennifer.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're just going to have this seamless transition, and we have a great staff, and the board's still going strong, and so
for sure,
we're in a great place.
Yeah, and I mean the Falmouth Road Race continues to be probably one of the top 10, 20 races in the country for people to come and run.
Well, I put it number one.
I mean, I would put it number one for bigger races. Cape Cod Marathon's my number one for smaller races. Smaller races, but completely different level when it comes to involvement and people and everything, Yeah. But I mean,
Cape Cod Marathon weekends, it's turned into a pretty big weekend now.
Yeah, you think we're stopping? We ain't stopping. This is just the beginning, Scott.
Nice.
So you put me and Kathy behind something, it's like a train that's going to the end of the earth.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's something. It's an event that brings the whole community together, and I would say for me also is like a Christmas weekend. It's the one time of the year, and I'm sure you can identify with this too, when all your running friends come to you instead of you having to go to them, which is very nice. Not having to you can go run the Boston Marathon, you can go run Chicago or New York, whatever, and you know how it is. You'll run into a million people. Actually, a funny quick story. When I ran New York, I went to pick up my number the first night of the expo because I was staying with my friend who lives a mile from the expo place, and I'm walking out of the expo, and who walks by me? Brian Baker. I'm out of the 52,000 people who are picking up their numbers, of course I see Brian Baker on my way out of the expo. So it's a small world. Yeah. You know how it is.
Brian does the Cape Cod Half every year. Falmouth Road Race every year. Brian and I went to World Championships together in Oregon.
Oh, okay.
And,
nice.
One of my running highlights. Do we have time for that story?
Yeah, whenever. There's no time limit on this, Scott.
This is going to give, I don't know if Brian's going to like this now.
He'll be on. He can contest if he wants to.
I will state that Brian is a better runner than me.
Okay, this is the beginning statement here.
Yes.
This means the story can only go one direction.
When we were in Oregon, we signed up. They had a 5K that was connected to the World Championships, and it kind of started with the World Championship Marathon. The marathon took off, and then the runners for the 5K would jump in behind, and we started right behind the marathon, and the marathon would take out on the course. We would finish this 5K course.
Okay.
And thousands of runners.
Yeah.
And, both myself and Brian ran, and a couple of other of us that were there. And if I have anything over Brian, I think my leg speed might be a little quicker.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, okay, I'm just going to keep Brian in my sights. He's not going to know that I'm there because he's better than me, and he's going to take me for granted. But I hung on him, and he wore his watch on his right hand, and he would always look at his watch, and I hung on his left shoulder.
A strategic move there.
Strategic. So I just hung there the entire race, and then with about 200 meters to go,
kick.
I went full send, and I got the dub over Brian.
There you go.
So
did you win an age category thing or anything?
No, I just won the mano a mano against Brian. So
would have hit it home a little bit more if you could have been and I won the age category for that one. I
don't even maybe I don't even remember. Actually I'm not even sure they had age group. It was more of just kind of being part of the World Championship atmosphere, and they had this race.
And of course, there's that competitive spirit that there's not anything to win, but I will be winning.
Yeah. So so fun story with Brian. I mean, probably the only time that I've ever beaten Brian, probably the only time I ever will beat Brian.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, same things. Like, the only times I've run faster than him is when he's been injured, so.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's fair.
So, but he's been a great friend and, someone great to run with. And he's always optimistic and positive. And,
yeah, he's a good upbeat dude, which is great.
So we've had a lot of good runs over the years. And
yeah, we'll have him on the podcast too. And when next time he comes down here from New York, we're going to have him on the show.
Great.
So that way he can come in and give us his...
Yeah, he's got a lot of great stories. So.
Yeah, his 40 some odd years of running the Falmouth Road Race consecutively that he's got going on. He has that singlet where he replaces the number on the back every year. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, great. Yeah. I think I'm on 11 this year. Yeah. I don't know.
In fact, he owns a house in Falmouth because of the road race.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Him and Carolyn will come down here and they'll stay, which is great. Yeah. And they got their dog, Maeve. Yeah.
May.
Is it May?
I think it's May.
Yeah, could be either one. Yeah. I don't know. I'm terrible with names, Scott. I'm the worst, so it is what it is. But yeah, that's a fun little story too. But so for the road race, when does registration open again? Do you remember?
May 1st.
May 1st.
So first week is Falmouth residents.
Yep.
And it's the general selection after that.
Yep.
For 2 weeks. And
Yep.
Rocking and rolling.
Yep. And if you're a resident of Falmouth, you do, if you can prove your residency, obviously, you do get guaranteed entry.
Yep.
Still have to pay the price for the mug and the bib, but you do get a guaranteed entry. And if you are not a resident, you go into the lottery.
Correct. Yep.
Which I will say is a pretty fair lottery compared, I feel like
it's completely random.
I feel like I've entered other races where I've not gotten in for a super long time, but when I ran Falmouth, because fun fact, Falmouth road race was my first road race ever. I did it in high school, I think.
Oh, wow.
Maybe? No, college.
Yep.
College, something? I don't know. And weirdly how I found myself back here. Life is weird.
Yeah.
You already know that. But yeah, I feel like it's a pretty I tell people, if you haven't, from my own understanding and my gathering of data mentally, just me, if you don't get in the first year, probably in the next 2 years, you'll probably get in. I feel like 1 out of 3 is probably a good odds to give it.
Yeah.
For
and
the
if
road
someone
race.
Has, if the random selection doesn't work for you for a few straight years, and someone contacts us, and we want to give everyone a shot at it, so we might make exceptions in certain situations like that.
Well, and you can also run for a charity too.
Right. We have our charity program, our Numbers for Nonprofit, that there's over 3,000 bibs involved in that, and there's so many. We have over 200 charities now that that's a great way to give back and to help a lot of these charities that need help.
Yeah,
so,
I know a lot of the charities too. The fundraising minimum isn't super high. It's $500, $700.
Yeah, every nonprofit can set their own limits.
Yeah.
And and a lot of nonprofits are just small. They have 5 bibs.
Yeah.
And they're always looking for runners, and so there's always an opportunity for someone to get in that way.
Yeah. And I will say, just from running the race, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with this, Scott, it's a very fun race to run. It's a very fun race to run.
Absolutely.
I become the mayor of Falmouth for about an hour because everyone who I run by is like, Juliana! I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. It's a blast,
Because it's just our neighbors. Our neighbors are out there cheering. That's what it. People are like, everyone knows you. I'm like, yeah, because that person lives down the street from me. That's the person I see at the grocery store every day. Yeah. Every time. It's just these are my neighbors. Yeah. This is how they know who I am, because they also live in town.
Yeah. And it's a tradition for people to come out and stand at the same spot every year and watch the race. And a lot of people have their own little water stops that they like to.
Or the guy with the hose, or
Right.
So I look forward to the gentleman who's on the S curve, the curve on Surf Drive, right past where the inn is, right there. Always standing on his lawn with the hose on the ladder. I'm just like, I look forward to that, because I know that you're there, and I am ready for it when I come off a Surf Drive. Yep. I'm ready to get hit by a hose. But it's a lot of fun too, and we have the cheer zones and stuff too, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
a lot of bands.
Yep.
So, it's a party atmosphere.
Yeah. So if anyone's ever thinking about running the Falmouth Road Race, just do it.
Yeah.
You're not going to regret it.
Yeah. If you're a Falmouth resident and haven't run it and you're still able to.
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah. Right.
Losers. Come on. If you live here, this is a requirement of your existence here in this town.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
So yeah, registration open on the 1st for residents and then the next week for the non-residents.
Yep.
And we'll look forward to running it again this year.
Absolutely.
Be a lot of fun, Scott.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on the show.
No, this has been fun.
Yeah. If anyone wants more information about the road race, do you remember what the website is? Is it FalmouthRoadRace.org?
FalmouthRoadRace.com.
.com. Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you need more information,
Everything's there. And, if you need to email us, we're info@FalmouthRoadRace.com.
nice.
And we can get back to you or just come in the candy store like a lot of people do.
Yeah. Let's give a shout out to your candy store. What's the website and the addresses for your candy store?
Well, we're 228 Main Street in Falmouth is one of our locations. And then we're in Mashpee Commons.
Yeah.
And online we are shipchocolates.com.
Shipchocolates.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Scott, for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks
This
for
was
having
very
me.
nice. And if anyone would like to get that information, I will put that in the episode description down below. What shoe do you choose to use, Scott Ghelfi? You can give me either your favorite shoe right now, your all-time favorite shoe, or just some shoes that is top of mind.
Well, I got to go with the Asics Metaspeed, the racing
Yes.
super shoe.
Are you in the most updated version, or are you in the version back?
I was in the most updated version. I don't know what that is now.
Well, that's the Edge and the Sky. So my question for you was going to be, are you a Sky person or are you an Edge person?
Sky.
See, I'm an Edge. I got the Edge.
Yeah, I'm Sky. I'm a shuffle.
Oh.
You got a little bounce to your stride.
I land very much on the front of my foot, too, and there's more cushion in the front on the
Just
edge.
shuffle.
Okay, so the Metaspeed Paris Sky.
Yeah.
Do you have any other shoes that you run in regularly?
Well, I have the On Cloud runners.
Oh, yeah.
I'll run in those. But mostly, the Asics. I like the Cumulus
Okay.
with Asics.
Much different vibe than the Metaspeed.
So I run, but the Metaspeed's just for racing.
Yeah, for sure.
So, my marathons I've done with the Metaspeed.
Okay.
So,
Okay, we choose to use the Metaspeed Sky then. Very nice. Okay, cool. I'll edit that in at the end.
awesome.
And if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can reach me at runnapod@gmail.com or runnapod on TikTok and on Instagram. And don't forget to like and subscribe. You don't want. Words sometimes are not my forte, which is great that I talk. It's a good thing. But if you'd like to rate and subscribe or like this episode if you're on YouTube, greatly appreciated. And we'll see you on the next episode of Runnah. And that is the end, Scott.
Good stuff.
Nice job. Thank you for listening to this episode of Runnah. This podcast is edited, hosted, and produced by me, Juliana Coughlin. Brought to you in part by the Falmouth Running Club and the Falmouth Community TV station. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at RunnahPod. And you can send us an email at runnapod@gmail.com. And our original theme music was brought to you by the one and the only wonderful Jeffrey Hutton. And keep up the great work. I'm proud of you.